Hello and welcome to this Ibrox. It's your Sunday podcast. It is the 24th of July. My name is Scott Patterson. This is Ibrox. Scott Patterson welcomes you along as always. 8 o'clock. Thanks for taking time out on your Sunday to join us. Busy show tonight, as you'd expect. Final Sunday night podcast before we build up to a week of match day one celebrations, which we really look forward to. Before we get into the bones of things tonight, we will welcome on our two podders for tonight, and it's the head on show, the boss man, the editor joins us again. Tommy, hi, how are you, mate?
I'm loving that intro. Yeah, let's just have that in a row. Let me tell all the listeners and watchers that's not what goes on behind the scenes. I am constantly at odds with the entire team and genuinely proven incorrect. Listen, thanks very much. It's nice to be back on, and hi to everybody.
Crawford, welcome back. How are you, mate?
Cheers, mate. Good to be on. Looking forward to the show. Lots to talk about. So, looking forward to picking the bones out of it.
Yeah, indeed. It's been a busy weekend. Two competitive friendlies. Cup draw for the first sort of competitive cup competition of the season has been drawn earlier today as well. So we'll do a little bit about that, and we will cover it all towards the end, just getting your take on how you feel generally going into the last or to the beginning of the season, rather. Listen, before we get into things, we should say a big hello to our good friends across at Zenith Coins. They are the proud producers of the Rangers coin collection. It's a must-have for every Rangers football fan. They are 5 wonderfully collected coins: a Founding Fathers coin, an Ibrox Stadium coin, a Cup Winners' Kip coin, a 9-in-a-row coin, and a coin that celebrates the 55th League Championship with Steven Gerrard, which feels like ages ago now. Visit their website as soon as you can. All the W's, zenithcoins.com. Tommy's left us. I'm assured he will come back. Before we get into things, we should say huge congratulations to the women's team today, who in typical fashion have won the inaugural City of Glasgow Women's Cup to beat Celtic 2-1 today. So huge congratulations to them. A good start to the season for Malky Thompson. We should say that Claire Gemmell and I will be returning with the women's pod very shortly, hopefully with guests from the first team squad as the season progresses. Crawford, we'll start with you first because Tommy's disappeared. I know yesterday was a big day for you. You took your wee fella to the game.
I did, yeah. It's not his first game, but I've only ever took him to the B team games, and I took him up to the Stirling game in the Cup. So this is his first proper full house. And you know what, you couldn't pick a better game. Seen Tottenham, Harry Kane, Son, and the rest of them. So he was buzzing for it. Managed to get him into the shop and get him his new strip as well. So great day. Had a brilliant time, and just passing on the baton to the next generation.
Absolutely. I love it. Listen, if you want to get involved in our chat tonight, jump on via our YouTube feed. Let us know where you are. I see Dale has joined us from Los Angeles, which we just love. It's great to know that our reach is going as far as that sunny part of the United States. I can assure you it ain't sunny where I have been this afternoon. Yesterday, Thomas, we lined up with McGregor, Tav, Goldson, Suter, Borna, 2 in midfield of Lundstrom, Kamara, a 3 of Matondo, Tom Lawrence and Ryan Kent sitting behind Antonio Cholak. I reckon that's as good as the team that we will see rocking out at the Macaroni Stadium at the weekend. What do you think?
I think you're probably correct. I think, first of all, just to address that, I think I got knocked off of the call a minute ago. I just want to make sure there's no Celtic blog rumours that we have to sell a podder to keep the lights on. You think this is Ibrox? It was purely just a thing, so I don't want to read whatever Celtic blog and get issues. Listen, it's one of those things that Rangers seem to have a pretty strong midfield moment. I think on the fact that the team that's got against Tottenham will be a team against Livingston as well. Some other people getting more. Obviously, the friendly against Queens Park. It'll be interesting to see how we shape up in that. I think there's a real dynamism. Looks like obviously we are looking at that middle to front selection. You're losing the likes of Roofe injured. How do you get this sort of dynamism you need at that forward part of the park, which I think we are away a little bit last season. But yeah, I mean, I think the selection will be there. I'm looking forward to seeing Lawrence play in the Scottish League. I'm sure time, but it'll just be interesting to see where the likes of your Davis, your Arfields, etc. actually find themselves. I believe that they've been signed up for extension. Also, the tangibles behind this is the continuity, how they help people in bed. But large squads, people need to get moved out as well. It'll be interesting to see who's out the door between now and the end of the window. And then probably the last point to get guys up there. Minutes now.
Crawford, I mean, when I saw the team lineup yesterday, when I rocked into my chair, I kind of thought, I'd be quite happy with that team for match day one at Livingston this coming weekend. Any thoughts yourself?
No, I think that's probably as strong as we'll be for next week. There's obviously a conversation to have between the goalkeepers who starts. I'm totally 50-50 myself between the two of them. If I'm being completely honest, I would like to have seen somebody new coming in, but if we are with the two of them. So apart from that, I think that's probably the best you're going to get for the start. I think after that, you probably see Davis coming into centre back just purely because we're going to spend £4 million for him to sit on the bench. I think he'll start ahead of Suter. I think Suter will be more domestic based. Midfield, yeah, I think that's going to be a midfield. I think Lawrence and Matondo and Kent is probably your three behind the striker. And if Morelos was fit, he'd obviously be starting, but it'll be Big Cholak because he looks really fit. He's played up every pre-season game pretty much, so he'll be a starter. And I like to look at him anyway, so I think we should be good to go for next weekend.
Yeah, listen, I completely agree. The other guys that you could, out with McLaughlin, the McLaughlin-McGregor sort of discussion, I think, is going to go on as the season progresses, to be honest with you. I do think McGregor will be number one. And don't go mental, but I think he should be number one. But I think also guys that are missing from that discussion, Jack doesn't get a look in yesterday. Obviously, Davies wasn't included as well. New left back potentially at any given point, none of which I think we will see at the weekend for a variety of different reasons: match fitness, squad awareness, bit of adaptability perhaps in the Turkish guy's case. The pitch at Livingston, I think it's you get lost in the fact that it's match day one, Tommy, and you think that, oh my goodness, we're going to see all these new players. But I think in travelling to a place like Livingston, it's maybe not the smartest of things to do to maybe throw in guys that have had problems with surface injuries and impact injuries in the past.
Yeah, I think everybody knows that. Well, I've got a certain feeling about these pitches anyway, and hopefully we see them phased out at the elite level. I think we see that every single season. We get them back in. It's as simple as that. But I agree with you. Anybody who's got an injury history, anybody who is carrying any slight knocks, anybody who's fresh off the plane, so to speak, you do need to be really careful with them. So yeah, I mean, I fully agree with what you're saying there in terms of it has to be in the manager's thoughts in terms of, listen, we just need to be really careful and bed these players in and not risk anybody. It's the first game of the season, and we know fine well if we don't get a result, it'll be pitchforks at dawn and all sorts. But at the end of the day, it's a start. Yes, you want to start really well. I wouldn't risk anybody just for the sake of it. We'll get a strong enough squad to go to Livingston, get a result, get a performance.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see how Livingston set up actually in that game, whether they start the season just trying to contain and get a result point or something like that, or whether they actually come out the traps and try and get something against this new look Rangers. I still think the weighting of the new signings will be in the starting lineup though. I think maybe not a Tillman, definitely not. Well, it'll be interesting to see if Matondo gets in ahead of Wright.
Yeah.
Out there. I don't think you see the likes of Yilmaz in any way, shape or form in that game.
No, I would tend to agree regardless of when he rocks up. And I think, listen, I think Dew's been quite clever as to how he's played it. Besiktas have obviously all but announced it. And Rangers have kind of played it quite cleverly, but I would expect something to come from the club perhaps Monday or Tuesday this week. Regardless, I don't expect to see him next weekend. Two guys I think we will see, Tommy, at the weekend I think we will see Matondo, and I certainly think we'll see Tom Lawrence. The thing that's really impressed me with Matondo is just his directness, his sharpness, his ability to run with the ball at pace. I remember, I think it was Ross Chalmers who joined us on the podcast previously, and he said that one of the great things that this guy has, as far as stats is concerned, that his ability to be aggressive with the ball and run with the ball, cause problems with the ball. He'll get kicked up and down the place, for 60 games this season. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I think he'll be a really important player for us this season.
Without a shadow of a doubt. And I would suspect all Rangers WhatsApp groups, Twitter groups, everything has been abuzz with the fact that he looks exciting. Yeah. Really exciting. Maybe showing what we all hoped Ahmad would.
Yeah, absolutely.
What Ahmad, he just didn't work out for a number of reasons. What I like about Matondo is all of those things you just mentioned. He's direct. There's obviously a lot of talent there. He's robust enough to take those kicks. Actually, there's been a couple of harsh challenges even within those friendlies that he's willing to go. Even better than that, I am a big fan of what I saw work rate wise. He's not a stand at the byline and wait for the ball to come out to him. He's willing to track back. He's obviously bought into the philosophy in that he'll do his part of closing down. They're defenders, so teams are constantly defending. A really good example of that actually that we come up against was Tottenham's front three at the weekend there, who never stopped moving. And to do it. I think Matondo will be, it's cliche to say breakout star, right? But I think he'll be a really, really good signing. You hope he doesn't get any sort of injury from those shocking challenges, no doubt, coming down the track. But given space and a bit of time to work out who he's playing with and what that looks like, Matondo will be either scoring a lot, in my opinion, or setting up a lot, probably both. Definitely a star in the making, in my opinion.
Crawford, are you on board? And listen, I don't want to refer to a train because it does very much sound like our WhatsApp group chat, but are you aboard the Ravi Matondo train thus far?
Yeah, I like the look of him. I think he's, as Tom was saying, he's very direct. I think that's what you need from a winger. We don't get enough of it from Kent, in my opinion. Yesterday he was getting the ball and first thought was get to the byline. Yeah. And that's where the goal came from. So, maybe 5 times out of 10, if you can get to the byline, you might get something out of it. But no, I like him. His pace is unreal. It's so fast. I mean, I don't think I've seen a player as fast since Lovenkrands at Rangers. So that will terrify defences. Might be a bit difficult for him when we're playing against the jobbers, come with 10 men behind the ball because there won't be that space to run into. But I think in Europe, especially away from home, he'll be a real asset to have. And that's where Kent plays his best as well when we're away from home in Europe, when he's got space to run into. So having the two of them is really exciting. But no, I'm definitely on board to Jamie Matondo. I think he's going to be a good signing.
Do you know one thing, Crawford? I'll stick with you. I felt that when Tom Lawrence arrived from Derby, he just kind of arrived, and I don't really think a lot of people took great notice of him. We had the Sunderland sort of friendly, we were all over in Portugal. He just kind of drifted in, picture with the strip was there, scarf above the head, and away he went. I was really impressed with him at the weekend. I think he is fitting into that number 10 role that I know you're not a great fan of Yanis Hadji, but I think he plays that without seeing Hadji in that 10 role properly and with any sort of effectiveness. I think that jersey has to be Lawrence's to lose now, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so. I thought he was quite quiet at the weekend. Didn't do anything wrong, but you could see his movement. He just into the little pockets. And I think against lesser opposition than Tottenham, he was going to have more space and time on the ball. I think he's going to be a real asset for us. It's not that I don't like Hadji, by the way. Thanks for it's just, I think he doesn't offer us enough, in my opinion. I think the ball bounces off him too much, and he lacks pace. But he can do something special. I just think Lawrence will give us a bit more consistency in that position. Looks as if he likes to shoot as well, and we cry out for that. I think having him, I think Lundstrom as well likes to have a shot, and I think Gio's trying to encourage that more from the edge of the box, and hopefully we see more of it. But I think Lawrence, as you say, he's quite signing. He's come in free transfer, and I think people will just be a wee bit underwhelmed by it, but he'll probably end up being one of our big signings of the season.
Yeah, Tommy, I thought it was good in the first half. Yes, probably should have scored shortly after Cholak put us one up. I feel it looks okay, and as I say, I feel that number 10 jersey is his. Now, what it means for guys like Alex Lowry and indeed Hadji when he comes back to full fitness, I have no idea. But for the time being, if we're going to play 3 behind the front man, I think Tom Lawrence is the guy that sits in the pocket.
I think that's a very fair synopsis in terms of Hadji you never know what you're going to get when players have a serious injury and then they try and come back.
Yeah.
It's a good point you make about where Lowry sits in that. I probably have to pin my colours to the mast as well, that I'm not a massive Hadji fanboy. Not a particular phrase that I enjoy actually about anything, but even I'm willing to do cliche bingo sometimes. So I think he's all right over time. I'm not entirely sure that even when he comes back to full fitness, that Rangers will naturally have a style that suits Giannis Hadji.
Yeah.
And whether that might be something that's looked at in terms of being able to move him on. The problem is, when you come off the back of a bad injury, you're either selling at a massive discount, or you're trying to rehabilitate that player in a live match environment to be able to show that he can hold up to the rigours of a professional season. So yeah, I mean, I think Lawrence looked neat, tidy. I liked his power running actually.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Held up the ball a couple of times, a little bit longer than he should. Hey, that's match sharpness, that's friendlies. I'm happy with that type of thing. He's another one that I think's got the robust nature round about him, and it's quite interesting that whether you actually see it overtly or you just see it in the way they go about their business. I think Gio and the coaching staff have obviously looked at parts of their team and went, there's a resilience that needed to be added in there from last season, where I think not only did we lack a little bit of quality, we sometimes just lacked a little bit of the right, roll your sleeves up and get involved in this turf war. And that pun is intended, by the way. I'm going to use that one again later on. But I do think Lawrence starts with that. The dynamic that you've absolutely hit on and Crawford's hit on as well, which is the key battle for me, is can Lowry outstrip Lawrence? If Lawrence has come in, he's definitely, I think, got a hold of the jersey.
Yeah.
Lowry, they're not like for like. I think they'll be used in different capacities, but Lowry needs to stake his claim beyond Lawrence. And it's just how Gio and the coaching staff are going to play that as well. Interesting when it comes to Europe to see who gets the nod on that type of thing as well.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. It adds to the, Gio's blessed with a lot of options this year, and I think it's in the right area of the park, which we'll come to a little bit later. Obviously, one of our strikers linked with a move away again today on social media. Tommy, I'm going to stick with you. RFC 56 has jumped into the YouTube comments, and incidentally, I should say my second screen has now completely stopped working. So if you are still feeding comments in the YouTube feed, please continue to do that. If it does decide to work again, I'll get back onto them. He refers to this needing a Boyd or a Jelic type striker, just as that arguably that final missing piece. It takes us nicely on to Antonio Čolak, who of course scored at the weekend. I would argue he scores at a really critical time of his Rangers career. Final competitive friendly prior to the first league game of the season, when he is going to lead the line in Livingston next weekend.
Yeah, well, first of all, hi to RFC 56, who I think's been a fairly long time supporter of the pod. It's always nice to say hello. And listen, you're not the only one having issues. I got kicked off the call at the very start, and I had sound issues as well. So unfortunately for you and the listeners, you can all hear me now, which is disappointing for everybody involved. That I've no doubt. But I think I get RFC's point. Right, I'm not a massive fan of harking back to other types of players and saying they're what isn't right, but I get the reference point. I'm not having a go at it. Listen, if somebody goes and rustles me up a Jelic for 4 million or Jelic type player for 4 million, I bite your hand off for it. Those players just really difficult to get that level of quality. Jelic was a genuinely top player in my opinion. Boyd, less so, but did a particular job. I think Čolak could maybe fall into somewhere in the middle of them. In that, I don't think he's a natural 30 goals a season type of player from what I've seen, which is incredibly limited, right? And it's one of the things we should always be careful of, making snap, concrete judgments about players based on a handful of games in the season, right? Well, the whole point is to get minutes in the legs and try out different formations and systems and get to know your teammates, right? I also don't think he's as much of a player as a Jelic, although his movement is slightly better than some of the criticism that I saw online. I think he actually drops in behind pretty well and he can move in the box. I like the fact, to your point, that he got his goal. Actually, his finish is quite composed. I know it's really close in, but he's moving in the box and being alive to it. That being alive part is probably the most important point of the story here. It's nice to see that alertness. Do I think we actually need something else in there? Well, if Morelos stays or whatever, then you've got Morelos at your leisure to go to striker, right?
Yeah.
Solak is fighting for something in there, and then got Roofe. Personally, if a decent bid came in, I would get rid of Kane or Roofe. As simple as that. I don't doubt the guy's quality, but I think there's a lot of potential stuff around about it in terms of availability that just doesn't work for me. However, he is one of the more intelligent players in terms of his positioning and his ability. How do you replace that?
Yeah.
I would say Rangers, and it could be actually there's I know we'll touch on it later, so I won't drain it right now, but there's also potentially a fast track for Lovelace here as well coming up from the reserves. But I think Rangers still need something else in the forward area. Tillman can play centre forward though. If I remember correctly, he's played that for Bayern. Or certainly Bayern reserves if you want.
Absolutely.
But I think there's some space in there. But if you were asking me, yeah, great for Solak to get his goal. Always nice to see us in the Rangers jersey. Right?
Absolutely.
Did bag into the defeat though. Right, okay. But I'm still a Rangers fan. I'm still allowed to get annoyed at that. But I personally would like to see another striker come in. Somebody in the Yelovich mould, moulding the boy, moulded the RSC's point.
Listen, it's always, there's something really sexual about seeing a number 9 score at Ibrox for Rangers as well. Crawford, where are you with Čolak? As I say, he's going to be the guy that's going to lead the line. If stories are to be believed, I reckon he'll be the guy that leads the line for certainly the duration of August and probably the best part of September. You happy with him? I think he's got a lot of good strengths. I think he's going to be one of these guys going to thrive on really good service. Morelos, I think, occasionally, more often than not, will make his own opportunities. I'm not sure Čolak's that sort of striker.
No, I think you're right. I'm happy with him. I think he's he's what you're going to get for what we paid. What was it, 1.8 million? So you're not going to get a guy that's setting the hair on fire. I think when I've seen him, his hold-up play is good. He's strong. Looks good in the air. I mean, a chance has presented itself. I mean, the one in Blackpool, I know it was chalked off, but it was a good finish. And then the other one other night, he's in the right position. He actually makes a really good move off the back of the defender and gets into that area to tap it in.
Yeah.
He could be on his heels when Tavernier back flicks it and then he's not even there to tap it in. So it looks as if he has that instinct to get into the position, which is what you want. And I think I agree with Tommy. I don't think he's going to be high numbers as in 30 odd goals, but I think he could reach the 20s for us.
Yeah.
And I have been impressed with him. I know there's a lot of people that haven't been, which I do find a bit bizarre because it's we're in pre-season, it's friendlies. It's always, I think striker's always the hardest position to try and hit the ground running in because you're dependent on everybody else in the team providing for you, and you have to get used to the team. But what I've seen of him, I have been impressed, and I've not got any qualms starting the season with him. I'm disappointed that we're in the position where we're starting the season with one striker. I know, Tillman can maybe go in there. I would like to see us bring somebody in because we all knew that Roofe and Morelos were going to be injured. So I was hoping we bring in a couple of strikers. I agree with Tommy. I think Roofe is probably best to move on now. I don't doubt the guy's ability either. I think he's a good finisher, but he's so injury prone, and we carry so many players like that. And I think we need to try and get better at getting players in that are more robust. And Roofe definitely doesn't fall into that category. So I wouldn't be that bored if we sold him. But no, if we go back to your point, if we start with Čolak for the upcoming games, I'm quite confident that'll be okay.
Crawford, I'll stick with you again. We're 1-0 up at half time. I felt we played okay in the first half. You could see that they were a cut above, I think, anything we've played for a wee while. And I would include anything in the Europa League last season, by the way. I felt that it's the first time I've actually, how you refer or you'll hear guys on the telly, your experts, Gary Neville, etc., and he'll talk about how teams go from a transition maybe to a 5 at the back to a 3. It's the first time where I've actually seen it, understood it, and watched it happen with great degrees of regularity. I think Conte's got his team very well drilled. They had a couple of really, really good chances, I think, in a strongly competitive match they probably would have taken. Kulusevski has he stings the palms of McGregor. The boy Højbjerg an opportunity when he's in 1-on-1. McGregor probably should score. You could see Tottenham's quality for the duration of that first 45, and that's before Harry Kane's even hit the net in the second.
Yeah, and I think going into the game there was maybe an air of confidence amongst the Rangers fans because of the West Ham result and the way we played against them. But there's no doubt that Tottenham were a level above West Ham. Certainly to me, they looked a lot fitter, a lot sharper. And I don't know if you've seen the videos of the Tottenham players getting their pre-season training and sick after doing the box runs. So Conte is definitely a taskmaster, and you could see it in them yesterday. Their movement about the pitch, they were really, really sharp. I thought we held our own for the first half without dominating it. There was little periods of 5-10 minutes where we had good possession on the ball. Second half was pretty much Tottenham, and then obviously once Harry Kane scores the 2 goals and all the changes start happening, the game kind of dies a bit. But I think from 45 minutes to 60, Tottenham were well on top. Harry Kane and Son just stand out like a sore thumb. I was disappointed in Goalkeeper showing Kane the inside because it was literally one touch bang, top corner. I mean, he's going to have to learn from that because that's the level of position we'll face in the Champions League if we make it. But I was really pleased that Rangers picked West Ham and Tottenham as opposition, because if you're going to be playing at that level, then it's good that we're up against it. I know we got to European final last season and the players are used to that kind of level, but it is another step up. So playing Tottenham and West Ham, I think it's good for the squad. Very impressed with Tottenham. I think they'll do well in the English Premier League. I think they're top 4. So it was a good workout for the squad, and I think it will set us up for the qualifier.
Tommy, I think Crawford's absolutely right. I think playing 2 teams of the quality in West Ham and Tottenham Hotspur, particularly the latter, we know how hard they've been worked during the summer, so we're aware that you're looking at a squad of fit guys. We know that they are a squad full of international quality right throughout the team, goalkeeper to front men. I was really impressed by them. And before we got into the first goal from Harry Kane, I think Crawford's right when he refers to Goldson's positioning. It reminded me of a goal that we lost under the Steven Gerrard regime, which I'll come back to. Tommy, I thought Tottenham were really good. They were definitely a stretch above us, quite a bit better, I felt, particularly as the game went on.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's a really good idea to get the podders up and down Gull and Sands. So that's my next. That's my next.
Yes.
You guys all
Let's do that.
You all need to be worked particularly hard for the upcoming season. I don't want any drop-offs come the end. So any of the listeners are welcome to join us. I'll be the guy sitting in the chair with the megaphone just shouting up and down. Simple as that, right? If I can get my sedan chair down to the beach, that is. But no, I think you're right. I mean, West Ham, Tottenham, very lucky to be able to play the quality of the Europa League, finalists.
Indeed.
It's not the other way about. They're lucky to be playing us. Conte's a fantastic manager, and he's got a fantastic squad at his disposal as well. I was more impressed with Kane than anything else, and not just because of the goals. You see these players on TV and stuff like that. I was actually really enamoured with his movement. A genuine top class player. And I need to admit, I wasn't entirely convinced from the outside. I actually just seen him, and I know it's a friendly and stuff like that, but their front 3 just buzzed us constantly. Yeah. You're right, they teared up into the second half. First half, it was probably shaded by us. I don't think it was an overrun or anything like that. We weren't sitting on a game where we're walking off at half time thinking we could be a couple up. I think it was relatively nip and tuck, but they came out second half, the quality showed, and then I think they had gears they could have went into, if I was being brutally honest. Great workout for us. You're right, Goldson. Hey, let's put it down to a friendly. You know me, I can't do 2 exercises at these things. You know they get an injury. But you're up against Harry Kane and he's inside the box and he's dipping his shoulder to go left, where it's actually a tight angle already, and he's going towards the byline, and yet Goldson slightly opens the body and lets him go onto the right, and fantastic finish. Then the second one, we're all sleeping at the back because he's got, is incredible. Lovely finish again. But again, it's hard sometimes to say. I'd be interested in what the rest of the listeners think, right? But it's hard sometimes when you say it in your own mind or you say it out loud, right? These are top tier players, and then you go, it's our fault we found space and actually finished. Yeah, those are competing thoughts, right? There's a reason why Harry Kane is a world-class striker. It's that he can give somebody the eyes above the shoulder really quickly and then get it at his feet and win it in the far corner and then create space. It's not always our fault. That said, I think Goldson should do much better for this time. And then collectively, we should do better for the second one. But, listen, it is what it is. We pack it away and then we look forward to the actual game.
So the two things I did get, so my screen's packed in again, but two things I did see, Paul McGarrigle and Ross, I think it's Ross Chalmers, hi Ross, thanks for watching, have referred to the Goldson goal. Paul suggesting that the big man probably shouldn't let Kane get on the inside, which I think is right. Ross referring to the quality of it being Harry Kane, which I think we get and we understand. I'll tell you what it did remind me of. I don't know if you remember when Matt Polster let Leon Bailey get inside of him against Bayer Leverkusen in that Kai Havertz game at Ibrox a couple of years ago. And as soon as I seen it, it instantly took me back to that night at Ibrox, and it was just, you know, far be it from me to criticise Connor Goldson, because listen, it is Harry Kane and everyone knows his quality. Precisely the reason we should maybe have been a bit more aware of it.
At least Goldson didn't sit down like Polster did, which if I remember correctly, Polster sat down just to take it all in and go, that was a cracking goal, and then roll off the side of the pitch. So, yeah, but I get you. But hey, listen, shackles off. I'm sure Connor Goldson will not be doing that against Livingston. If Livingston have got a hidden Harry Kane somewhere, which I don't think they do.
I certainly hope they don't. Goodness me. Listen, there was, of course, two friendlies this weekend. We played in a behind closed doors affair against Queens Park. Today, Crawford lined up with Robbie McCrory in goals, a back four of King, Devine, Sands and Davies. Jack Davis and Arfield in the midfield. Strong trio in the middle of the park, you have to say. And Scott Wright, Malik Tillman and Sakala up front. When you look at the makeup of both starting 11s from the weekend, the squad is really strong going into the new season, isn't it?
It is, yep. I've seen the lineup and I thought that myself, really strong team he'd put out, and it just shows you what we can have on the bench this year. If you go back 3-4 seasons, the bench was so weak. It's not the case now, so the squad's definitely get more depth to it. I watched the highlights of the friendly today. I think big point for concern was the defence, but I don't think you can look into it too much because they're kind of flung together. But the goals they lost were really poor. I thought the first half highlights, Sakala looked really lively. Most of the highlights were coming through him. Buzzing about, getting into dangerous positions, just the final ball and the final shot let him down, which I think is a theme with him sometimes. And then the second half, the highlight was a young boy Lovelace. He looks a proper specimen. I mean, what age is he? 16?
Yeah, 16 years old.
He looks like a grown man. I think he was stood beside Scott Arfield, and he was like half a head bigger. He's 16-year-old, and
did he remind you of Reese?
Of who?
Reese.
Reese's dad.
He's a big boy, and you can see why he's started already for Millwall at that level. He's obviously got the physicality to deal with the championship down there. So I agree. I think what Tommy said earlier, I think you could see him being fast-tracked, and he'll probably have a few appearances for the first team. Took his goals really well, and he could be a real surprise package. Yeah.
Tommy, I think we quite a lot of times we say as Rangers fans, if they're good enough, they'll play. In this chap's case, he's played at a very young age at championship level down south in front of pretty hard-going fans. I think the Millwall fans can be quite challenging to play in front of. He would have done that 15, 16-year-old or something like that. I think there's a good chance that you could see him with the first team squad at some point this season.
I definitely think that would have been part of the sales process.
Yeah.
In terms of getting him to sign up at Ibrox as well. It's not just, listen, we've got a top-tier academy and you've got all the best of facilities, which, no offence to Millwall, would, ours outstrip Millwall by some distance in terms of that, and the quality of the opposition that you'll be reflected against. But it's absolutely not just I don't think with Lovelace it's you'll get in and you train sometimes with the first team. I think he's absolutely been not given assurances because we should never do that. But
no.
If he shows the appetite and application, he'll get an opportunity in the first team at some point before the end of the season. he's got all the physicality that you've spoken about there. He takes his goals well, I should say. He's definitely highly rated. Rangers really beat a host of clubs to get him here, and there's a lot of narratives in that particular storybook, so to speak, in terms of all the good things that the academy work's done, all the reports that other players and agents get behind the scenes, and the ability for Gio and his team to be able to say, listen, we are open to this. I would be highly surprised if he's not already in the thinking somewhere. Do I think, going back to our earlier conversation, it's somebody we hang our hat on in terms of, right, well, there's a starting place that's filled up in the first team at that striking end of the pitch? No. I would still like to see somebody else come in, particularly from offload, Kmart, Roofe. But cliche bingo again, right? I'm not a fan, but if he's good enough, if he's got the physicality to last in the league, if he can stand up to the challenges, and he's got the wherewithal and the trust and respect of his teammates and his coaching staff, get him in a jersey and get him in.
I think it's a really interesting one. I'll tell you why. Because if you look at the options we have up front as things stand just now, we'll come to Roofe probably within the next 10 minutes or so. If he was to leave, Sakala, we know that we can play through the middle. Tony Weston has gone out on loan. From a youth perspective, prospect perspective, it's really Robbie Ewer and Lovelace. That's it. We're not blessed with huge options once we get down to the bare bones in the first team squad. Hence the reason I think there's a good chance that you may see him, and a bit more of him, as the season goes on. He scores twice today in the second pre-season friendly of the weekend. Nico Katic getting the other goal this afternoon. Thomas, Scottish League Cup draw was made today, and we got a home draw, a hot ball again, of course. Home at I think it's the 30th of August, I think it is, something like that. It's towards the end of August, isn't it, when the match is going to be, I think, without having the proper date.
It's the midweek of the weekend ending the 30th, the 31st of August.
I'm with you, okay. Queen of the South at home. I suspect it'll be these sort of games where we see guys like Leon King, maybe even Adam Devine used a bit more. Lowry, perhaps, just never know. How high are you valuing the League Cup this year? And I'll give you, based on the scenario, that at the end of August, we could be having big discussions about the Champions League.
Well, I'll give you the off the shelf answer, which is this is Rangers and we go into whatever trophy. Right? The Thomas off the shelf. And I don't know if I'm getting into trouble here. It's Thomas sometimes and Thomas. You need to pick a lane.
I like to mix it up.
Unbelievable.
You want to hear what I call you when you're not here?
I know what you call me when I'm not here. To be honest with you, you don't turn your mic off. But, listen, if you've got Champions League there and you're going for that type of scenario, the Premier Sports Cup can go straight in the bin.
Yeah,
it's really that. It's unfortunately me. I think we should always go to try and win everything, and I'd love to see these players. If players have dropped out of the pecking order, then that's their opportunity to prove themselves. And guys like Lovelace maybe fall into that. I think if I remember correctly, it is the midweek, so that's the 30th and 31st of August. Is the weekend. So I'm trying to think who we've got in amongst that. Is it Ross County, and then away to Parkhead?
Yes, correct. Yeah, absolutely right.
So I think coming off the back of it, you've got what that would be. Try to do some fast calendar maths here. I think best case scenario would be 4 days to the Old Firm game. Worst case scenario, 3 days to the Old Firm game. Half 12 kick off at Parkhead. Is that right?
Yeah.
So I mean, ultimately, you're also looking at a squad rotation, which is really important at all times, and particularly this season as well. And then looking at who you can bed in, who you can overload, who can play midweek to stiffen that team, and then who can play the weekend as well. Quite frankly, if it comes down to it, to give you a sharp answer for once, I will take most games over the Premier Sports Cup up until the final, in which case, I've become really interested in it. But beyond that, I'll take a UCL win actually over it.
Yeah. And what about you, Crawford? Obviously, it's another tournament, and listen, I think as a professional, I think will always say, as you'd expect, we want to be winning trophies. These guys want to, when they eventually decide to hang up their boots. They want to have as many winners' medals in their cabinets as they possibly can. Scottish League Cup is the Scottish League Cup medal. You want to win it. I just wonder how serious isn't the right word. But I think it's precisely the type of game that we will see heavy rotation in, particularly if we've got the European nights to look forward to at that stage of the summer.
Listen, for us now, our treble is the League, the Scottish Cup, and a European trophy. That's the way I see it. I would bin the Premier, the League Cup. I'd bin it. I'm like Tommy. If he gets to the semi-final, then I am interested. And you want to win the treble, just because it's a thing you can say we've done. But I would play because the squad depth we've got now. I would try and get the younger boys into that tournament. Play the earlier rounds. I really would, and try and keep the first team away from it. Obviously, you want to win it, but no, for me, it's right down the pecking order. It's right at the bottom.
Can I just say I reserve the right to completely change my answer if we get another team from Glasgow at any point in time, in which case it becomes extremely, extremely important to win whatever round it's in.
And it's worth pointing out that I think the other team in Glasgow that you're referring to have got a midweek trip to Dingwall to look forward to that midweek. So, that's going to be an interesting part of the summer, and of course it'll be slap bang in the time period of when transfer deadline day, the doors slam shut. So listen, it's just going to be an interesting time of the summer, I think. Look forward to it. As far as transfers are concerned, Tommy, we see again Kemar Roofe linked with a move back down south this afternoon. This time Sheffield Wednesday are credited with doing a wee bit of sniffing. I'm very much in the sort of let him go. I don't think we have a great deal of reliability around Kemar Roofe. I think that's just the way I would defy anyone to come and say he's a reliable striker. If he was our only striker and he was injured as often as he is, we'd have a huge problem. It's as simple as that. Thank goodness for Alfredo Morelos. I think if there's an opportunity for Roofe to go and indeed to get him off the wage bill, I think Giovanni will hit the button on that as soon as he can.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with anything you just said there. Not that I would want to. I have to say, if they're sniffing, let them fill their lungs. Would be probably the right way to say that. Listen, there's no doubt. I've said it before earlier in this pod as well, right? And I'll say it consistently. Kemar Roofe is one of the best footballers at the club, right? He's a very, very good player. He's a very intelligent player.
Yeah.
However, you can't rely on him to be able to bring that talent onto the pitch on a regular basis. Yes, Rangers need a squad. Squad rotation is eminently important throughout any part of the season, but you need players who can pitch in. End of the park. I think more than most areas of the pitch. I'm generalising there, so happy to take challenge on it from anybody in the comments as well, but definitely top end of the pitch. Sharpness is always key. And I don't like the fact that this striker can come in for maybe 2 games and then he's out for 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever.
Great.
It doesn't particularly work. You need guys who are fit all the time and raring to go to come in and prove something. There is no doubt that Kemar Roofe wants to prove it and that he's always up for it. I just think so Anderlecht as well. Anderlecht, so I should say, he had some injury problems. I just don't think his body is up for the rigour. I hope that changes for him. I'm just not willing, if the option was mine, for him to get that opportunity in a Rangers jersey. I'd rather he went somewhere else and had that ability to build himself back up. I would rather it was on a permanent basis than any sort of loan or anything like that. So if somebody's coming in and they're paying reasonable money with the best of the world, thank you. Kemar, all the best for the rest of the year. Yeah, you're always welcome back.
Yeah, no, listen, I fully agree with you. I think we've kind of reached that stage with Roofe that I couldn't even tell you when his last competitive game was for us, to be honest with you. So, and I appreciate it's pre-season, but he had that sort of stop-start sort of end towards the end of last season. He's not been seen. I don't even know if he's doing any ball work indeed so far during close season. Crawford is a concern. You just worry of the pitfalls of continuing to persevere with a player that doesn't ever seem to be 100% match fit.
Yeah, and as I say, I've just mentioned it before. I think it's time for him to go. I mean, if he can get himself fit, then fine. I'm more happy for him to stay, but it's just he's not reliable, and you can't go through a season again. You know, if you pick up an injury and then he plays 3-4 games and breaks down. You just can't rely on the guy, and I think he's got a really good attacking brain. If he was fit all the time, he'd probably be a great player for us, but he just falls under that category that Rangers have seen so often. A really good player, but just injured, constant.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think something, judging by the amount of, because you kind of broke up a little bit there, Crawford, as well. I don't know if it's just for me or everybody. I'm sensing our internet providers are Team our Roofe as well, because it keeps breaking down all the way through the podcast. I'll need to look at that in a bit.
Tell you what I want to do is just we've got maybe 10 or so minutes left to go. Tommy, with you, how do you feel going into match day one? We've seen what's and all during the summer, and we went through the sort of period where we thought, oh my goodness, we're not going to sign anyone. Then all of a sudden it's like a revolving door. Players coming. At the moment, there doesn't seem to be anyone disappearing out the club, which you can understand who would want to leave Rangers. There's no other direction other than down the minute you drive away. I just wonder, Tommy, how do you feel going into match day one?
Yeah, well, before I answer that, it's often the hardest part of the director of football or a club's job during pre-season is moving out players you don't want.
Yeah.
It's maybe slightly easier to get players in sometimes. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's maybe slightly easier because most people are moving players out because they've not performed. And then that becomes relatively difficult, and we can have a wider conversation about the financial football ecosystem of one move triggers another move, and all that kind of good stuff. I sense that we're not going down that route tonight. But listen, we have seen elements of it. We haven't seen all the finalised pieces playing at one time. So if I think of Yilmaz and stuff like that, exactly where Tillman comes in, Davies, that type of scenario as well. What it might mean if anybody else goes out the door in terms of who is close to a starting berth. We've touched on guys like Lovelace and all that. I've seen enough to be positive that we've addressed some of the maybe not glaring problems, but problems that we had last season at the forward end of the pitch. Another striker notwithstanding, I would still love another absolute finisher in there. It has to be said, but I think we've addressed things like, Matondo, Lawrence, Cholak. We'll see what he's all about, etc. Balanced out some of the midfield, and we've added to the back. I'm confident it'll be a tough season.
Yeah,
I think the question actually inside yours, not that it's ever my job to do the host job for them, right? But I think if I was to add to your question, is what I should say is, do we think this squad is fit to get into and to do something reasonably okay in the Champions League? And I think it's good enough to win the title here and win the trophies, maybe even win the Premier Sports Cup. We can only hope for the stars, you know what I mean, and keep reaching. But I think it could just do with a little bit more at the top end, maybe another striker, to make sure that we are fit and ready for the UCL.
Crawford, I'm going to speak to you about the goalies in a second, which seems like a nice way to end it, because I know where you are as far as the McGregor-McLaughlin debate is concerned. How do you feel going into the initial game of the season? Do you think the squad looks okay? Are you happy with what we have? Would you rather we change? We're not going to change things this late in the day now, but are you happy with what you've seen thus far?
Yeah, I'm a lot happier than I was probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago when we were lacking signings. So I think to strengthen, namely right winger. Apologies if you can't hear it, my internet seems to be playing up a bit. But yeah, right winger, striker. The only thing that's causing me a bit of concern is losing Bassey and what he gave us in defence, pressing into midfield, replacing him with Davies and the Turkish lad that's going to come in. Time will tell whether that works out for us.
Yeah,
I think losing Bassey is a massive blow, and I really hoped that he wouldn't go. Starting the season, I hoped we'd get another season out of him. If he had been here, I'd have been really confident going into the season. But losing him, That's the only doubt in my mind. But I'm happy with what the manager signed. He's addressed all the concerns I had. So yeah, I'm quietly confident.
And that goalkeeping scenario.
No, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. No. I don't know how this works, and I'm by the way, right? But host with the most, you can't just walk past that question. You've hit me and Crawford with it. Scott, how do you feel going into the first game of the season? And how do you like the questions being turned around on you?
Hate it. I absolutely hate it. This is why I love doing what I do, and I hate when you ask me what I do. I'll be brutally honest with you. I'm reasonably confident going into the season. I think Giovanni's added a lot of quality in areas that needed improved during the summer. We know about the heartache and the problems we've had looking at right wingers for the last couple of seasons. I think he's improved that area unquestionably this season with the signing of Matondo. I'm still a wee bit concerned, truth be told, over the status of guys like Ryan Kent and Alfredo Morelos. I would like them on new contracts with a bit of urgency. I don't know if I would be as comfortable if we had the Goldson effect with both these guys going into summer next season. I certainly don't know if I'd be comfortable with Ryan Kent and Alfredo Morelos sitting in front of us to say, I just needed some time to think about it, but I was always going to sign on the dotted line. I'm not sure I would have the same sort of nice feeling about that. I think we'll go into the season quite well, to be honest with you. I'm comfortable that we'll pull up quite a lot of trees this year. I fancy us for the treble, and I fancy it quite strongly. I think the squad's good enough to do it. I'm just getting all of this out now because I'm conscious you maybe want to ask me more questions, Tommy. Aquarius, 42.
It's a question to Crawford. What do you think, Crawford? Does he fit the bill? Should we keep him on?
Tough question. Don't know.
Can't believe you led with A.
Keep him.
Well, I think I'm going to. I think we'll just put that to a blackball vote in the WhatsApp group. For all the listeners, there might be a change in the seat. Come in.
Back to my job. Crawford, Alan McGregor and John McLaughlin. What are we going to do with these guys?
I genuinely can't even answer that. I don't know who I would rather start with. At the start of the season, I was all for John McLaughlin. That's who I was wanting to start. I've not been too impressed with him in pre-season, but especially with the ball at his feet. That's gave me real concern. McGregor, the same. I don't think his distribution with his feet is good either. And we all know about his issues coming for a cross ball. Shot stopping has never been an issue for him, and he is a better shot stopper than McLaughlin. So it's horses for courses. It's just going to come down to who Gio wants to start with. But I think we could have done better. I think there was maybe options down south that we could have went for, spent a bit of money in that position. I think throughout the season, that's going to be the position that might cause us an issue.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong, and this will come back to bite me, and people say you're talking nonsense. But between the two of them, I'm not filled with confidence.
Tommy, I think Crawford's absolutely right. I think we will see horses for courses in quite a bit of the tournaments that we'll compete in, hopefully, as the season goes on. As you stand now, who's your number one?
Me?
No, Thomas. Crawford, trust me.
Once I'm actually reflecting on it, I didn't have a quick answer there in terms of.
Done that smell the fart acting that Joey done in Friends?
That's exactly it. I was trying to reframe the question in my mind, actually, in terms of what's the snap decision there. It's not who's your number one. Who's the best keeper at the club? Sam McGregor. There you go. It's your number one.
Yeah, no,
you can break that down into all its component parts, and you can say X is better coming off his line, Y is a better shot stopper. McGregor gives maybe more confidence to his back line in terms of just that raw ability to do the goalkeeping job. That's not to have a go or denigrate John McLaughlin, is a very, very fine, stable goalkeeper. But if you're asking that sharp toss of a coin question, who's the best goalkeeper at the club? I think the majority of people will say it's Alan McGregor. That's why Alan McGregor's been given the extension. That's why he's probably going to start against Livingston and have the number one jersey to lose. And just for that wider piece that Crawford was talking about, I think absolutely that position will be the talking point, or one of the talking points throughout the season. But it's also rather canny, if you like, on the behalf of Gio, his team and the club, in that Yes, they could have spent money there. They obviously reflected on it and said, you could get another year out of him. John's happy enough to stay and fight for the place. So it definitely is up for grabs. And we can put the money in somewhere else. And then next season, there will have to be an influx of talent. I'm not massively convinced of Robin McCrory, I have to say.
Yeah.
Whether he was to stay or not, McGregor will go at that point. You'll have to have some fresh blood coming into the goalkeeping scenario, whether that's steps up from the ranks or it's brought in externally remains to be seen. But yeah, there you go. I've given you a lengthy answer for what was a relatively binary question. It's for all the faults that we saw last season, it's Alan McGregor for me with the gloves at the Tony Macaroni.
Oh, I love it. Well played. Well played. Crawford, listen, it's always good to see you. Thanks for coming on, buddy. Well done.
Cheers, guys.
And Tommy, always good to have you on as well, buddy. Well done. Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you very much, and my thanks to all the listeners.
Listen, last wee spiel from me. We should say that if you are following us across our social media stuff on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, you will have seen, no doubt, that we did have an hour and a half or so of Kevin Thompson's time this week. That interview now is available throughout our obvious channels, wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, Amazon Music, etc., etc., etc. We are all over there. A fantastic interview, very candid, honest discussion. We are a really sort of a guy who I think has became a real favourite of the support. I urge you to jump on and have a look. I should say, if you are following us on YouTube, follow us more, like us and subscribe. Don't forget to toggle on your notifications so that each time we release any content, you get a little notification and you can jump on and join us. Bulletins are back tomorrow and Wednesday and Friday from 7 this week, joining Craig Dennett after a holiday where he was last week. It's Stephen Conroy and a debut for Scott Cameron from 7 o'clock. Join the guys tomorrow at 7 o'clock. I now take a wee break, so I'm not back for 2 weeks, and I don't know if Tommy knows that, but I will let him know when we come off here. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Have a good Sunday and a good week. Thanks
you think
for
it's
watching.
only 2 weeks?
Thanks for watching. Good night.